Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Vacation Station Travel and Leisure Show. Hey, everybody, did you know that May is National Walking Month? And we love that here on Big Blend Radio. In fact, we even have a Facebook group, hashtag 1 hour walk, and it's one all spelled out because it's really true. It's good for our hearts, and it's a good way to explore when you're traveling is to actually just hit the road, man. Hit the road, Jack. But, that's not the right song. But I think Cheryl Ogle, who's here every third Wednesday, Cheryl Ogle is here. It's our Hey Wanna Go Travel Wednesday with Cheryl. She's a world traveler, a travel advisor, and owner of the travel company Hey Wanna Go. And she specializes in travel to Europe, the UK, river cruises, ocean cruises, and escorted travel. And last month she was on the show talking about escorted travel. So I think this really goes with it. You can keep up with her at heywannago.com. And she always has great blogs on there, including one about travel. But I got the Hit the Road, Jack. And I think you wanted to sing the Proclaimers right before this, right?
Well, I don't have a singing voice, but I will put a Proclaimers video up on the blog and let them sing it.
The 500 miles. I like this. I like this. There's so many songs about walking. But do you know there's even an app that you can get paid for walking? They give you money for walking.
What? Well, yeah. That's a whole other conversation, but I'm going to expect to see that in my inbox.
I'm just thinking all of us traveling. I haven't signed up for it yet, so let me suss it out. But I do all this walking stuff and I need to walk, way more than I have been. But, so I keep seeing these ads. And so I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. That's a good incentive. Take another step, make a couple bucks. That sounds good to me. But I think, for travelers who go on like these epic, you go through Europe and Europe is like the walking haven of the world, right?
Yes. I mean, get out and walk. That's where you can go experience so much more. A lot of people have different ways of travel. And I know some people love to get on a hop on, hop off and be driven around the city. That is wonderful for those people. But for me, I'm out walking and my plantar fasciitis doesn't always like it, but I'm still out walking. That's how you discover. You find cute little boutique shops that you may not find down, otherwise, because you're walking down a side street and you're finding a cafe that will have coffee. And we're not even going to talk about cake because you and I always get off track. But you can find so many treasures and just little local options to immerse yourself in when you're on foot.
Well, I want to go back into kind of the escorted side of things and guided tours because, as you know, Nancy and I travel the country, we document parks, public lands. And so if you can go on a naturalist walk in a park before you go on your big adventures in the park, it's one of the coolest things on a ranger program where they tell you this is the cactus that does this. So when you actually go on your big hike, you know what you're looking at and it gives you more awareness. But we've also done a ton of downtown, there's self-guided hikes, right? Or walks.
Yes. Yes.
A lot of those which are excellent, but there's also ones that are guided. And it kind of like you could go back afterwards once you've done it. Like, ooh, we didn't get to go in that restaurant, but I want to. There's food walks. There's all kinds of walks. But I mean, yes. I'm gonna go to a place, Visalia, California, right? One of the coolest walks we've been on in a downtown is in Visalia, California. Terry Ullman is a retired policeman and sheriff, I believe, too, and a historian. And he's written about all the bad guys and the outlaws that came through. And you've got to think about everyone was going west. And there was even, pirates and looters and stagecoach robbers and everything that happened. I think it was Blackbeard that went through the area. And so when he walks you around, he can tell you all the scandal of what went down. He even took us into a boutique store, like you were talking about boutique stores, that it doesn't exist now. They've closed, sadly. Everyone retired. It was a family store, Lynx. And they were going like for 70 years or something. They're haunted. And we did a podcast with them, but you go through and you understand how a town is made up by the architecture and how you may not really realize it until someone's telling you, you see this architecture represented this time of history in this community. and you start to see the mishmash of architecture in a town. And that tour sticks with me forever because, you just start to realize how Visalia in Central California, home to the Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks and all of that, how much history went down, including Civil War history went down there. And because there was a North and a South that happened in Tulare County, California. And who knew? I wouldn't have known if I didn't go on that walking tour.
Right.
And so that opened my eyes. And I mean, I've done a bunch, but it, ever since, I mean, it just, you've got to do it. I mean, he knew the history of the Fox Theater and even how Fox Theaters began and anyway, it just goes. Now I could just do a whole show on it. Sorry. I have done that in the past, apparently. Sorry. Didn't mean to do that. But
No.
understand that where you get that connection with someone who really tells you the stories when
Right.
you go for a walk, you know?
But it's true. And these people, and what I found even in Europe is they're maybe political science majors, or some of them are retired teachers. And so they know that history. They know the history of the architecture. They can tell you this is where such and such happened. And it's more than what you're going to get in a guidebook. And that you would have to sit there flipping around, turn to page 9. What happened at the corner of First and First, and so you hear these stories. I was on a walking tour in Zagreb, Croatia, and our tour guide gave us a suggestion for a lunch restaurant. And so about half the group ended up going there. And we just thought, we'll go try it. The tour guide says it's good. That became my favorite restaurant probably in the whole world. I mean, it's just,
Whoa.
you
See?
find such great treasures from people who live there and know they're locals. And they say, okay, now go up this alley and 2 doors to the left, go behind it. So, I mean, it's a whole different experience
Mm.
to get that information. There are a
So,
lot of free tours, and you wouldn't think that a travel advisor would recommend a free tour, but there are times that fits the bill. And the cool thing about it is, one, it's free. Now, gratuities are expected and appreciated, and generous gratuities. You would kind of pay what it's worth. So you don't just go take the free tour and then walk away at the end. But they can be larger groups, but typically as time goes by, they may shrink a little bit. But you'll learn a ton of information. There are a lot of very specific tours that are available, and so we're doing a Harry Potter walk in London, or
what?
whatever.
What? Really? A Harry
Yeah,
Potter walk?
I know, but I mean, there are just so many. I'm not doing that, but I'm just saying there are so many things to choose from. A Jack the Ripper tour in the evening, that's a fun and creepy and scary and interesting one. So there's a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
free tours, and sometimes I'll recommend to clients, if you have a small interest in a subject, Jack the Ripper, go do a free walking tour at night, and
Mm,
go back later if you want to go revisit those things later.
mm.
So you can do free tours. There are also paid tours that are small group, and they can be a little more customized. And so those are nice options as well. But the world's your there's just it's your oyster right there. The world's your oyster. You can get out on your feet and go explore a city.
And these people know the history of it. Like we've done ghost tours, not far from you in Gladewater, Texas. Well, maybe it is a little far from you, but I don't know. Texas, everything's far away. But we've done walking ghost tours, and I'm glad you reminded me of that because ghost walks are fascinating because it's not really about are you going to get spooked out or they're well, it is. There's a little bit of that, right? But it's about these mysteries, and it makes you really think about the people, and that's the point, right? It's you're
Yes.
getting the gossip of the town. And
Hmm.
I mean, I go to cemetery walks. One of the most recent walks I did, a guided walk, was in Natchitoches, Louisiana. And we love Natchitoches. And
Yes.
I went on a cemetery tour and I found out, here we're standing at this cemetery, this tombstone, and this is one of the mayor, where some guy got mad at him and shot the mayor of this oldest settlement of Louisiana because he, wanted to check his well to see if it was got bad water in it. And because the guy was trying to sell water saying it was the fountain of the youth. And he's like, no, it's not. And so they went to go test his water and he got mad and they found out it was like, no. And the guy went and shot him. And it's crazy. And both families, the guy who shot him and then the mayor actually united together and to help each other through the circumstance afterwards, because one got jailed and one got, laid to rest. So, I mean, these stories, you can't, you can go read, you could go to the cemetery, read the plaque, read the little writing in a pamphlet. But I think these self-guided tour or these guided tours, you get the inside of the community, you get the flavor, and there's a texture that is added to it when you think like those kind of stories.
That's perfect word for it, because there's stories that you probably, first of all, you're not going to read in a guidebook or you're not going to Google and find. These are just small little niche stories almost. And you'll only get that from that special experience.
Now, with you, I know you love London, I know, but you've been to Wales, Ireland, all Scotland. Now, have you done any guided tours that take you kind of into the nature spots, the coast, that kind of thing?
I have not. And one reason, well, should say it's a reason, is that nature is not that high on my list
Yeah, we're a little different on that. So
for
I do the
travel.
nature.
Now I
Yeah.
have a sister where that's her thing, and so we travel very differently, but it's just not my very most favorite thing. So,
Yeah, well, for us, it is. We do
yes.
nature, but history to me is fascinating because it is gossip. I do love good gossip. We're
Yeah.
not supposed to gossip. That's a naughty new thing to do, but I like, history somehow it says it's okay. I don't know what
Well,
it
I
is.
have I have a walking guide, a tour guide in London, and he'll take you and he'll say, we're going to do this and this and this, and we're touching on this and this, and we're going to finish with a great beheading before we have fish and chips. And so
I'm
he's
in.
got it down, and so but he's animated and he brings it to life, and he says, okay, see that picture up that frame up there or the window, and this is where they would do they would do the hung, drawn, and quartered out of that window. And so, I mean, you learn things where normally if you're just walking by, you'd say, oh yeah, something happened at this building, someone was hung. But to hear that they
Yeah.
were hung, drawn, and quartered, that's a bad way to go.
But they
Um,
also they let you ask questions, right? Which
yes.
is better than Googling it in a way. It's like this, yeah, no, this happened, that happened, and you know, there's I'm going to go back to Natchitoches again. Well, Natchitoches, Louisiana is the oldest settlement of the state. And it's also part of what's no man's land, which is also like where, oh gosh, the history, it goes into Louisiana Purchase and it's so complicated. But if you want to understand it, the only way is to go on this walking tour and it's free through the Cane River National Heritage Area because they raise money for that, right? They will
Mm.
take you through the whole historic district, which is 33 streets, 33 blocks. And this is where Steel Magnolias was filmed, right? And so they'll tell you, and, Blaze was filmed up north. There's some other ones with John Wayne. I mean, all of this stuff happened. And so you get all these pop culture fun things. You get nature, you look at the shops and everything. And when you go by the candy store, after that walk, you're going right back, right to the candy store.
Exactly.
So
And they know it
that's,
too.
so I'm just going to ask you this. Don't you think, I mean, there's food tours, so we haven't even touched on that, but we'll get there. But after that, like to understand the history of this region, it's so diverse and complicated because so many things went down. And the no man's land is with for 3 years after the Battle of New Orleans happened and the battle 1812 and all of that stuff happened. For 3 years, this area had no law and order. There were pirates. There was all kinds of stuff going on. There were shenanigans and there were different countries represented in different spaces. So it was really wild. And so to understand it, go on this walk. I always tell people, you got to go on the walking tour because it puts everything in context for you before you start going all the historic sites. I think sometimes doing a walking tour is almost better than the museum. It just kind of sets the scene for you of how people lived. And then you go to the museum and go, oh yeah, I saw that building. now we see the picture and what happened. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's kind
Yes.
of that balance. But do you think it's also National Small Business Month, right? Walking month, small business month. You're a small business.
I'm
Everybody,
a
hey,
small
want to
business.
go? Yeah, yeah. Hey, 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 hey. Hey,
I didn't
want to
know it was small
go.com.
business month. I just
It
plug
is.
along and do my job. I don't pay that much attention to the calendar, I
Well, I
guess.
think all of us in small business world don't even have time. But part of my job is that, so I get to. But small business month, a walking tour, a guided one, self-guided, I think allows you to slow down a bit. You're walking.
Hmm.
You know, there are such things as benches depending on where you're walking. Allows you to go into small businesses. So I love that these two, months holidays are together, don't you? Do you support small businesses as you go on walking tours or find out about them and go back, like you said about the restaurant?
Absolutely. I try to. When I'm traveling, I'm not going to go to a restaurant that I can go to at home. And that's,
Mm-hmm.
any chain, I don't see, well, I don't eat it. I don't want to name them out, but I mean, I'm not going to eat at a chain in anywhere that I can eat here in Lubbock. So it just doesn't make good sense. I want to go to these small businesses, these hole in the walls. On my next trip that I'll be on when this comes out, one of my travel partners has already found a Caribbean place and they serve jerk chicken out of their backyard. And it's
What?
about 30 minutes out of town. And I said, okay, absolutely, we're going. She found another place that is a bakery that's open for 3 hours a week in Dublin. Well, of course, we have to go and support them. So it that's what makes a difference is supporting these small businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I appreciate when people support my small business. And so I really like to pay that back and do what I can.
Well,
One thing that I wanted to touch on when we were talking about the walking tours is that you asked if they allow for questions, and they do, and they get really excited to see you engaged and asking questions. But what I've witnessed in a lot of them is that so many of them will bring the tour guides rather will bring photos, and they'll
mm-hmm.
have photos from either historically photos to say this is what it looked like in 1888 or 1920, and this is what it looks like now, and you can see they'll compare and contrast, and
Mm-hmm.
that they get into it. They've done their research. They're not just sent out to go walk these people around for 30 minutes. They've done their research. They're doing a fantastic job. So consider them.
I agree. I mean, just even having a tour guide a lot of the time, you're gonna be on foot, right? Um,
Yes.
we recently, no, it's not that recent. I was just thinking pre-pandemic, pandemic, when was it? We were in Santa Fe and did a food tour, a walking food tour.
Mm,
And I have to say, Nancy, we were there for like 3 days. Of course, we know this history of Santa Fe, New Mexico. You know that area too,
mhm.
is just, diverse culturally. I mean, it's insanely amazing. There's all the art, there's Bandelier, National Monument, all of that, and it was, I think, the last day. It was the last day, and we did a walking food tour. And I mean, immediately I just was like, this was the first thing we should have done because the food in Santa Fe, New Mexico is so cultural.
Mhm.
Um, Even the pizza place had different, Santa Fe style pizza, like from Santa Fe, New Mexico represented green peppers, right? Green chilies in
Yes.
there, of course. But the history and the food tours, I think that's something we need to look at because most food tours are walking, right? Kind of going
Yes.
from restaurant to restaurant. There's pub crawls too. They call it a crawl for a reason. But like I know like a friend she did Pike's Marketplace in Seattle. I'm just thinking like there's all of these food tours, but Aloha food tour that a friend did in Hawaii, Debbie Stone, she just did that. But what I'm hearing back from all these food tours, and this really actually digs into the cultural history. So have you done any of those in your travels? And I mean, all these different countries you go to, are they mostly history, or have you done foodie tours, or even the Christmas markets is like a walking experience, quite frankly, it looks
Yes.
like.
I've done a little of both. I did a wonderful food tour in Seattle going through the Pike's Place Market.
Mm.
And it was a small group tour. I think there were maybe 6 or 8 of us on it. And it was so interesting because then you're getting just little nibbles here and there as you go. We had a chance to throw the fish with the fishmongers and taste a little bit of clam chowder and, just all sorts of specialty items as he walked you through the market and told us some of the history. And so that was so interesting. And then we knew, okay, it lasted maybe an hour. So then we knew where we wanted to return. And oh, we're
Mm,
coming back here for lunch because it's just little bites along the way. You're not filling up on a food tour.
mm.
But so interesting to get to learn that history. Like you said, before you're really getting into a city, learn these things, hear these stories. You
Hmm.
can't get it anywhere else.
And then there's art walks. I'm just like, there's art walks. That's a way to discover a community. In this country, I know you do international on this side. There's a lot of art walks, that happen in communities. There's public art walks that you can do, public art, like self-guided tours. But there's actually art walks where people open up studios that you can go to in the downtown. And
Mm,
like Little Rock, Arkansas has one of the best. It's like, I can't even, and it goes beyond just art. I mean, you go in, there's music. We heard music in a church, like this full on jazz band played in a church. And
oh,
then they're
wow.
giving you this Kool-Aid, which we found out later made us a little giggly. But anyway, anyway, it was punch, not Kool-Aid. If I say Kool-Aid, that sounds weird now. Can't say Kool-Aid anymore. But you know what I mean? And we went downtown and we explored because it was just, we're going on this adventure. And sometimes being without a guide is kind of cool too, because that's that, ooh, freedom, but I have a little structure. I know that we're supposed to go here and there. So it's like a treasure hunt. So that
Mhm.
part is kind of cool too. Do you do that when you travel? Those kind of like, let's go do one of these things where they've put something on as a walk.
When I have time, yes, when I can fit it in. My next trip, I thought I had extra time, and as I'm planning it out, I'm realizing I have absolutely no extra time. And so sometimes
Ooh,
you just run out of time.
yeah. Yeah, you have to watch it. You have to watch it now. There's the arts and everything. Public art's a good way. And I mean, that's more of the American side, right? I know you deal with mostly the Europe side of everything and going, and you just like Iceland and all these places you've been. Um, the escorted, but the Christmas markets, I mean, that in itself is supporting small business.
Yes.
The restaurants, everything we're talking about. Walking means someone needs to sit down somewhere or stop a spell, and they might want to walk into a store and go, I need to go a little shopping, and someone needs to sit at a bench while I'm doing it. And or we're going to go to a restaurant and have a coffee or something like that. But going, the Christmas markets, that's a major event. And I don't think you're going to do the Christmas markets without walking. And you eat well at those markets from what I saw. You had hot chocolate and you had all kinds of good, baked goods. And so walking is probably a good idea.
It is. Well, it's a great form of exercise.
Yes.
And if, I mean, really, if you kind of balance it and get your nibbles along the way, maybe it's not so bad. You're on vacation, think wisely. So, but yes, walking through the Christmas markets and you see small businesses with handcrafted items that they've made. And so it's the same as supporting small business here. Pay attention to where your things come from. I know there are times we all use that big name brand, and we order things because they come the next day.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
do what you can to see how you can help the little guy as well.
Mm. So, you're off. Tell everybody where you're going now. Like, I know you're off. So while this airs, where are you going to be?
I am headed to the UK for the month of May, and I am grateful that I've got a house sitter who's available to stay the whole time, so my cat won't be alone. But I am doing about a week in London and Bath before I cruise, doing a short cruise to France, and then doing a week-long cruise to the Norwegian fjords. And I'm taking along 14 clients. So we're
Wow.
cruising together, and I'm excited. Some of these have been clients for years, and I've never met in person, and some have been on more than one trip with me. So I'm really
Wow.
excited about it. It should be a great time. And then I was going to come home, but a singer that I like is performing in Dublin. So
Rod
I have no
Stewart.
choice but to pop on over to Ireland for a few days. But a dear friend of mine is coming up from Spain to meet me in London and Ireland as well for a week. So I'm,
Wow.
she is my oldest childhood friend. And I shouldn't say, that we're old. She's the
No.
person I've known the longest next to my
Yeah.
family. So she lives in Spain, and she's the one who found jerk chicken south of London. So we're going to go find jerk chicken south of London.
Well,
So I'm looking
I
forward to it.
love this. I love this because I think we should all do what we can when we can. You and I always talk about this,
Mhm.
off air, but it's really true in travel. Do what you can when you can. And
Absolutely.
also I'm going to say this, don't overburden it too. Have those, let's go find the jerk chicken place, have
Hmm.
fun with it, and don't get disappointed if you don't do it all. Because sometimes you need
Right.
to just go to sleep it off a little bit in your hotel. It's okay because you want
Well,
to
I'm also
do
taking
it.
a deck of cards. Sometimes you need to just sit down and play cards and relax. And so,
Well, yeah,
and
I mean,
that's
I've
fine.
talked to you when you're traveling, and you're like, you know what? I needed to take a day out. And
Mhm.
I know a lot of travelers, we want to do everything, but it's impossible. But honestly, then just go for a slow walk somewhere
Right.
new, you know? You got walking in your future this month in May?
I will do a lot of walking. You do a lot of walking in London, whether you want to or not. So,
All
um,
right. Well, I better find you that app because you
you need to
make
find
some money.
exactly you do. But I mean, really, like you said, life is short, and I'm gonna get out and live my life
Hmm.
and go see things and do things and experience them. And people say you travel all the time. Well, I don't. I'm home quite a bit too, but I budget for it. And when I travel, I'm going to go and see as much as I can. So
Hmm.
it
Yeah,
just,
everybody's got to prioritize how they can. And I think do whatever you possibly can. And there's so many things like, we're talking about walking today. And, walking is going on these guided tours. If you're on your own traveling, it's another great way to go as a solo traveler, you know?
mhm,
We've talked about that a lot on shows because there's so many now and women are traveling on their own. They're doing their thing. They're like, no one's going to stop me, and power to you. No one should stop anybody.
right.
Single people do travel and it's just this weird thing about single people not traveling. I feel like we should do a whole show on this one day, like a panel
Oh,
discussion about this. Single people, solo people. You could be married. I have friends that are married for like gazillions of years, like older than me, and I'm getting old. Like the dirt is coming.
stop. You're
And
younger than me.
uh-oh. But their
Uh-oh.
key to their marriage success is they both go on separate vacations. And then they have their own vacation. They like, I'm going where I want to go and do my experience with my friends, and you go do what you want to do with your friends and your experience, and then we'll have our own experience together. And they've been, married for, our age.
Right.
So I think that's pretty cool.
Most of
So,
my clients are single women, and they're
ah,
they're solo travelers. And often I've got two gals coming on my December river cruise, Christmas market cruise, and then on to London, who have never met each other. One lives in Texas, one lives in California, and they're both good friends of mine. And they both wanted to do this tour and said, I need a roommate. And I said, here you go. You're both nice ladies, and you're not getting married. You're sharing a hotel room for 10
yeah,
days. So it it works. And
bring
it,
your
it
nose
makes
plugs. No, I'm kidding. You know what I
Well,
mean?
it just, sometimes it just makes sense because when you don't want to pay
Yeah,
double for a
yeah,
cruise
don't.
cabin or double for your hotel room. And some people absolutely are fine paying to have their privacy. That's fine.
But
But it doesn't
that's
work for
really
religion.
cool. That's really cool that you're able to do that though, man. That's really awesome.
Well,
People,
and
oh,
I've done it before with people, and you know what, it works. Again, you just have to remember, we're all mature adults, we're kind adults, and do your best
mm,
to just be nice, and that's all it
oh,
takes.
and
Um,
I want that is the closing word of this. Be kind, because as you travel, things happen, and be kind. And when you go into a small business, be kind.
Mhm.
And travel absolutely impacts small business. It's a backbone. I don't care if it's an air conditioning company. If tourism doesn't come into your town, tourism is a huge market and it actually uplifts the community. It'll help have better parks. It will help have, clean streets, flower baskets in your downtown, help
Mhm.
restore the history. Tourism is, don't, oh, that's a whole other thing. I'm just going to go on a rant for 10 years, not a rant, but I'm like, tourism is it, right? It does so much, but responsible tourism, like, hey, we're going
Yes.
to go on a walking tour of a downtown, those beautiful things we're talking about. We're going to go on a nature walk, those things bring in significant dollars or, it could be pounds, wherever you're going to be into a community. But you also, before you go, you're going to get a new outfit. You're going to check out, hey, I need a new suitcase. So you're already in, a new hairdo. Don't do what I just did. Anyway, don't cut your hair right before a podcast. Anyway, don't look at me anymore. But on shows. But you're already investing in your community before you leave,
Right.
right? Then you
Right.
get on the road and all these different places you go, you buy a souvenir, you buy that. You are supporting small business and families directly, which
Yes.
goes back into the infrastructure, schooling, goes back to the air conditioning guy you want to pay to have your air conditioning unit in your business or your home. So tourism impacts everybody. Isn't that cool? And we're all in that world. I love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You I couldn't have said it better. So
I'm a little passionate about it. Just a tad. But thank you so much, Cheryl. Always fun having Cheryl on our every third Wednesday Hey Wanna Go Travel Wednesday show. So everyone keep up with Cheryl at heywannago.com and keep up with our shows at bigblendradio.com. Thank you so much, Cheryl. It's always fun.
thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio's Vacation Station Travel and Leisure Show, brought to you by Big Blend Magazines. Keep up with us at bigblendradio.com or blendradioandtv.com. Happy travels!